Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. TRINH. The one show, maybe the only show that shows you the path to a healthier life, one conversation at a time. And today, with Dr. TRINH's help, we're going to have two conversations at the same time here. We got two different guests joining us. Dr. TRINH, bring us in.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning. Welcome back, and Huang from Nous, and very happy to meet Terry Murray from Device Lab today. So we're going to learn a lot more about what they're up to and who Device Lab is, what they do, and how this is all connected with Nous. So welcome, guys.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And if Terry Murray doesn't look Irish enough, he's got a bright green shirt on today here. So welcome to anybody who's Irish. And Dr. and Huang, he looks a little Irish today here too. So we got a whole celebration of Irish crew here. Last time,
Celtic pride.
Yeah, exactly. Celtic pride. Last time we were talking, you blew our mind, Huang. You gave us very casually, oh, here's the latest in telehealth, and here's the latest in patient home health care monitoring, and on and on and on and on. All with your Nous project that you've been working on for years here. Give us a quick recap of that here. You've really taken this thing to the next level.
Thanks a lot, Paul and Dr. TRINH, for another opportunity to share our journey. Yes, this is probably the fourth time I've been on your show, fourth or fifth. The first three to cover, we covered revision version 1 of our Smart Home Health Hub. Everything is based on this hub to collect nearby health devices, data, and transmit them to the cloud for instant viewing by remote caregivers or by doctors to monitor the patients while they're at home in between visits, like parameters like spot check, blood pressure, glucose, SpO2, and so on. Okay, so that was in our version 1. In version 2, we integrated those features with telehealth, meaning it has microphone and camera to allow the doctor to do virtual telehealth visits while the health data is streaming. Okay, and the third version of our platform, like I covered last week, was on the hospital at home. Okay, right. Remote patient monitoring, which were covered in the first two versions, are more for preventive medicine.
Right.
But hospital at home is an emerging trend to allow patients to be discharged earlier and recover at home. For that, you need continuous monitoring like respiration rate, heart rate, and ECG. For that, we have wearables like that to monitor the patient's vitals 24/7. Also, our mission is to enable the elderly to age in place healthily, independently, and safely. So last week, we also mentioned about other features like radar sensing to monitor whether patients are in the bed or they have stepped out, or for example, if they go to the toilet at night, and if they don't come back after 10 minutes or so, then a alert can be sent to their caregivers because they might have fallen in the bathroom and they were not able to get back to bed, for example.
Right.
In addition to that, we monitor not just physiological output, we monitor the patient's daily habits like sleep pattern or exercise, and particularly in our version 3 of our Smart Hub, we have a smart pill counter. Basically, it's a high accuracy weight scale for monitoring how many pills you remove from the bottle each time you take your medication. The neat thing is via prescription in digital format from the pharmacy or doctor's offices, all this prescription data from schedule to dosage will be instantaneously programmed onto the remote devices at the patient's home. And from there on, this device knows the schedule. And medication time, it will beep to remind the patients. Or if the patients have taken the medication, then it measures how many pills have been taken. And it compares against the prescription that is stored in its internal memory to notify both the patients and the remote caregivers, whether it's an overdose or underdose or medication compliance. Okay, all that is important to allow the doctors to correlate between physiological output like glucose or blood pressure against their medication compliance, whether they're compliant. Okay, so that's that. And over the years, we have, after building these 3 hubs, we have a lot of IPs and ready to use infrastructure in both hardware, firmware, and software that could allow other startups or universities or accelerators program to take advantage of all these ready-to-use stack in our infrastructure to allow them to build a proof of concept prototypes quickly. And then that's why we want to partner up with companies like Nous based here in Tustin, and they are very experienced in the external clients designed projects as well.
So let's bring in our next guest here. How does Device Lab? What is Device Lab, and how does it fit into this?
Okay. Device Lab is a 23-year-old design, development, and manufacturing firm of advanced medical technologies. Their core competencies tended to lend themselves towards the electronic side of things. And as you know, Orange County, California is an epicenter for advanced medical technology.
This building that I'm sitting in, the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center, is one of those central hubs where they're developing medical devices, medical technologies, and medicine.
You understand the ecosystem of our neighborhood, right?
Right, exactly. So you guys have been involved in designing a variety of things. Give us some range of some of the stuff you've worked on or currently doing.
We've really been at the epicenter of the wearables and wireless revolution, especially the last couple of years. We've been in business for 23 years, so we've seen a lot of change in the industry over the course of more than 2 decades. What's interesting, perhaps one of the only positive things that might have come out of the pandemic, other than other than some of the vaccine technologies,
right,
is the fact that clinicians were forced to go to remote patient engagement.
Right.
And that has moved the needle forward in terms of reimbursements and in terms also of clinicians understanding what the limitations are in terms of clinical terms of the current infrastructure and engagement technologies. And that's where Device Lab really has a strength in developing those end user technologies, that end-to-end technology, and bringing in some strategic advisory guidance along with Nous software solutions, creates a really dynamic capability in delivering custom solutions very quickly and rapidly for new technologies that are going to emerge in the home.
So Huang dropped out for a second. Are you back there with us now here?
Sorry about that. My laptop runs out of battery.
That's okay. So yes. You guys...
Of all people.
Yeah, of all people, right. We're talking about remote work and remote monitoring here. We can't have our remote laptops go down here. Is Dr. TRINH still with us listening? I know he's driving to his office here. What do you think about this wearable revolution? This I know the answer already, but is it still coming or is it here?
It's already here. I'm already wearing wearables. On my wrist is a device called the Whoop, WHOOP, that is collecting data on my amount of sleep I get, my stress level, my exercise level, my level, and I'm also on my abdomen is a little device from Dexcom that's measuring my blood sugar 24/7.
Wow.
I'm not even a diabetic, so this stuff is out, and we're already collecting data. It's here, absolutely here. With that.
And then one of the, I thought, it sounds more mundane, but I think it's really critical, is, Huang, we talked about last week, what do you do with this data? And how do you collect this data? And how do you, most importantly, how do you integrate it into their patient medical records here? Who looks at it, and what do we do with it?
Yes, it's all about sensor fusion. If you look at only one sensor's data, you don't have the whole big picture of the health conditions of the patients. And also, this is about preventive. Okay, you look at the trends, and data analytic allows you over a large amount of data over time. You can analyze and have and recommend very insightful recommendations to the doctors on what to do with the patients.
Because now you know what they're doing when they're not in front of you. Now you know what they're doing in between those 6-month visits that you see. And you have a chance to maybe intervene quickly if you see a spike in some problem, diabetes or whatever, blood pressure or something here, rather than waiting till they show up, which may be too late. You can intervene at an earlier point, right?
May I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. We talk with clinicians on a weekly basis that are looking to migrate much more complex clinical therapies from high cost environments to the home.
Yeah, right.
And what we're seeing now is, it's going well beyond just looking at vital signs, but looking at not only data capture, but applying machine learning and preparing for artificial intelligence that's going to be able to pick up on things that heretofore were unforeseen. There is going to be information that comes out of the signal pathway that's going to be predictive, and it's going to contribute to clinical efficacy going forward.
Well, you read my mind, because the hot topic these days is artificial intelligence, chat GPT, and things like that. What is this machine learning going to do when you apply it to big streams of data? Right now, I'm talking ChatGPT is taking tons of data that's out on the internet, and you want to write an article, or you want to collect that data into some sort of information package here, and other things they do with it. You're talking about collecting data from lots of collection points here, and what do you do with it? Maybe that's the answer, because I'm always worried that the doctors are already overloaded and overburdened with data and stuff, and they're trying their hardest to catch up with it, but I'm not sure they're really ready to read all this data. Maybe it's the machine that reads the data and at least alerts them when something's happening here. What do you think, Huang? Is that the answer? Yeah.
Of course. Medicare, when they came out with this RPM program, they knew that doctors and nurses in the medical offices are very spread very thin already. So they allow basically they use technologies, namely software, to automatically detect whether any of those health parameters collected from remote patients, whether they are within the normal thresholds or not. So that's the first line of filtering. And if they are not, then the MAs, not even the nurses, are alerted. And then it can escalate to higher level to the doctors if it's an emergency, meaning the data is way out of the normal range. Yes.
Well, Terry mentioned the other part of this is payment. Has Medicare caught up? Are they willing to pay for these preventative things? Are they willing to pay for somebody to read the records? Or is that still a sore point that has to be resolved?
I'm more experienced on RPM than Terry, so I'd like to take this question.
Okay.
Sure. They have reimbursement codes for different type of services, from the automatic software to the calls required by the MAs or the nurses to the patients at home. So they have to satisfy both the data, enough data being captured monthly, as well as calls from the MAs or the nurses on a weekly or monthly basis.
So again, I'll bring up my one negative point in all this is, are the patients and the doctors ready to accept this? What do you think, Dr. TRINH? Is there still a resistance from either of those groups, or are we stumbling into this or rushing into this already?
No, I think the time's right. We're not seeing a lot of resistance I think patients appreciate the fact that their data is somehow somebody's watching over them as far as their health, and somebody's keeping an eye on them between the 6-month doctor visits or the 3-month doctor visits where there's absolutely no communication with the doctor. That this is being monitored, and if we can reduce and avoid an ER visit because somebody knows that your blood pressure is way off the chart or your sugar is way off the chart, that's a good thing, and that's what this is all about.
So I'll go back to Terry here. What's the next big thing coming? Give us some previews of stuff you're seeing coming down the pipeline here. Right now, we're just at the point where we're monitoring stuff. We're taking vital signs. Then the next step is we're monitoring patient activity. Did they get up? Did they go to the bathroom? Did they take a pill? Did they do something here? I'm wondering, is there something else that I'm not thinking of that you guys are already thinking of?
One of the big applications is actually caring for the home caregivers of persons with dementia and Alzheimer's that would really prefer to age in place.
Right.
However, if you look across the country, there are literally hundreds of thousands of typically family members that are unpaid caregivers of patients with Alzheimer's.
That's for sure.
This technology can be applied for Alzheimer's patients in support of the caregiver. And let me give you an example. Alzheimer's patients have a tendency to wander at night. They'll get up. They have a very repeated pattern. They're going to get up. They're going to go to the bathroom several times in the evening throughout the sleep cycle. It's a very stable pattern for the most part. If you set up monitoring and radar systems throughout the house, that will alert the system to monitor the patient, watch the patient while it's going about its evening routine. And as long as the patient stays within the safe parameters of that routine, it doesn't alert the caregiver. Things like this allow caregiver to have better sleep onset. And we actually, years ago with CareGenesis, we had NIH research that supported the health of caregivers using this type of technology. And one of the saddest things about caregiving, caregivers of patients with Alzheimer's have a much higher risk of developing Alzheimer's themselves. So any type of technology we can leverage is important. The other thing that this technology allows at-home care to do is it allows it to evolve with the state of the disease. Alzheimer's is a progressive disease. So what's safe for mom or dad today may not be safe for them to do 2 years from now or 3 months from now. Maybe the kitchen is no longer safe. The software can move with those parameters and help identify behavioral patterns that will inform clinicians as to the best therapies going forward.
What do you think of that, Dr. TRINH? It reminds me of the LIDAR research. I forgot what LIDAR stands for, but it's those little bulbs, those little things they put on top of cars that have sensors that for autonomous driving. And I see them driving around the university here. There's somebody doing research on campus on this. That whole idea that you can map out a space and monitor it, whether you're driving or at home. You can watch, you can set up a parameter. They're safe if they move in this way, but if they start to go out the front door, somebody gets alerted here. What do you think of that, Dr. TRINH?
Absolutely. And it's for safety. And it allows gives the caregiver a little break so that they're not keeping an eye out on their loved ones 24/7 and burning themselves out. It's interesting data that sometimes the caregiver dies before the patient.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It's so stressful for the caregiver, and believe me, I was there. We talked millions of times about me remotely taking care of my mom, my dad, and my mom's sister in Palm Springs. They all were aging in place. They all had various problems, including developing dementia, falls, and everything. Yet they didn't want to move, didn't have the resources, didn't want to move into a assisted living facility till the very, 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 very end. And so I had to somehow pile together between Meals on Wheels, checking on them, and me calling them, and me visiting them, and neighbors looking in on them. We had this kind of, ad hoc support group that allowed them to stay where they were, which is what they wanted and what the only thing they could really afford too. It was more affordable and it was really more comfortable for them. But it was constantly stressful, particularly at night, because that's when they get up and move around and do things. It seems like.
Hey, Paul, to add to you what you just mentioned about the affordability
Right.
of these new technologies, and not only that, but ease of use. So I'm very excited to share that we have been working on affordability, low cost of our technologies, as well as ease of use. And just a month and a half ago, I think I touched on this a little bit.
Yeah,
last
I know
time,
where you're going with this.
time.
But,
Yes.
But go ahead. Talk about your internet partnerships here.
Yeah. Basically, Amazon, about 2 months ago, opened up their, they call it a sidewalk wireless infrastructure based on their Ring videos, the network of Ring videos, and their Echo smart speakers.
Right.
Okay. And opened that to for developers and device makers to build devices. So to assist the caregivers or the elderly to age in place and have peace of mind, we have to have a smart home, meaning ease of installation as well as reliable and robust wireless infrastructure. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, they are good, but they are not enough. Mm-hmm. Bluetooth is too short a range.
Yes,
For example, if the patients fall 30 or 50 yards from where the detector or the receiver is, then it's useless.
Right.
Wi-Fi, you have to configure Wi-Fi with the password and all that. Okay. So in version 2, we introduce our cellular-based connectivity.
Right.
But that is good. That is plug and play. However, you have to pay monthly data plan to Verizon and AT&T. Right. So I'm very excited to share that Amazon Sidewalk now has this new free wireless infrastructure and extremely easy to use. You don't have to configure Wi-Fi or pair Bluetooth and all that. It's just plug and play. And
I'd have to learn more.
3.0 will support Amazon Sidewalk. Yes.
I'll have to go check that out because you're the first person that's ever mentioned that to me. I know that Amazon and Google and Microsoft, to a certain degree, are all competing for this smart home space. You've got Google, going after it with their versions of the smart speakers that you can talk to and ask questions and play music, and cameras and light bulbs and all this stuff. And there's a parallel world with Amazon and their Alexa and their Ring doorbells. And I'm on the Alexa system, and honest to God, it's very interesting how this is all going. I can now check and see if my garage door is open or closed, and I can have a little camera there and see what happened. I can even set it up so that it will open up when an Amazon driver appears, and they can put the packages in the garage and it closes. I can turn on the lights. I can turn on the coffee maker. Certainly you can monitor your refrigerators. Now, why not monitor us? We're monitoring the home. Why not monitor the occupants of the home? Now, does that raise the big brother fear, Terry, that we're all being watched 24/7?
You know where we found the line of delineation there was we were looking at some 3D imaging of movements around for the home for the patient. And as long as we were rendering data and not filming them, people were comfortable.
Okay.
Right. So it was a huge difference between being watched over, right, by a video camera and just having a stick person animation basically representing motion throughout the home.
That's interesting. That would make sense because I would probably not object to somebody if I had a need for it. My caregivers, my doctor, something, knowing what I'm doing. This is my buy-in. This isn't being imposed on me. But I don't know if I want to see them walking around in my underwear.
Right. And this is all HIPAA compliant too. So that's the differentiation between what we're doing and just having Alexa or Ring in your home. None of those things have the privacy stacks that our software delivers in order to be compliant with HIPAA regulations.
Right. Yeah, it's a very tricky world. People are always wondering about, should I have little privacy screens for the camera. Our TVs are, to a certain degree, Alexa's on all the time waiting for a command, so to a certain extent it's monitoring the room, waiting for you to mention her name so that she'll, instantly reply, and people wonder, so what do they do with that data? Are they collecting that constant monitoring, or is that just, instantly being lost? Is anybody storing it? Talk about safety and security, Huang, because I think that's the next big hurdle to overcome. I think people are going to be worried about what happens with all this stuff.
Right. Yes. And safety and security, not just on the like fall detection that we have. I believe that the next products for fall detection and SOS or emergency button will be based on the Amazon Sidewalk.
Yeah,
because it solved the range problem.
Right.
It solved the monthly data plan cost problem,
right,
and ease of installation.
I get all that. You sold me on that, and I think that's an exciting development. But I'm just worried about what happens to all this data, and I think others will be too. So,
well, this would be as safe as any information you'd be sharing with your physician in his office or her office.
Yeah.
Because there are federal regulations that require significant safety requirements, security requirements in the transfer of healthcare information and data. We have to comply to all of that. That's what I reference as a HIPAA regulation. Those are healthcare security standards around your personal information.
Because we're also worried about what do you do, not just how do you use it, but, this is what Google does. They monitor your activity on the internet, and they sell that data. That big data is worth something to companies to know what you're looking at and where you're going and what your buying patterns are. So would there be similar interest among drug companies and among medical device companies?
Interesting you mentioned drug companies. Drug companies are actually very interested in this technology in support of their clinical trials. Believe it or not, they have challenges with compliance of patients in a clinical trial.
Sure.
Getting them to take their meds. Huang showed you some technology earlier today that actually controlled the dispensation of certain types of medications.
Right.
That's really interesting for the pharmaceutical companies. The other thing that's really interesting for them is the behavioral data that can come from this.
Right. Exactly.
And the subtle data, not only on behavior, but let's just give you an example. Information that in between each heartbeat, right? You think there's no data there? There's information there.
Wow.
That information that it's going to tell you about the state of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. There's data in this stream that we can't even begin to fathom as to what it could indicate.
That's what I was getting at earlier. What is it? What is it else that you want to see, Dr. TRINH? What other data are you pushing them to collect? You've got motion, you got activity. Did they take the pill? Did they move around? Did they get up? And then you've got the vital signs. What else are you looking for as a physician? What would you encourage these guys to look at? Anything else?
That's a lot of information to digest, and I think it's a good start. I think another arena that needs to be conquered with this technology, and I don't know how yet, is mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Mental health, addressing mental health issues, because
anxiety, depression.
You check vital signs, but how do you use technology in the field of mental health? I think that'll be fascinating.
Because we're more and more isolated, particularly as you get older. Your network's dropped off. You're living alone. You're divorced. Your spouse has died. Your kids have moved. More and more seniors are isolating, and all of us are isolating. COVID and work at home and all this kind of stuff. And that seems to be the final frontier, is what's that doing to our mental health here? What do you guys think of that? Any thoughts on mental health monitoring? Huang, you got your brain working here?
I realize on Dr. TRINH, if you have ideas or sensors to monitor that, then that's why the key reason I want to partner up with Device Lab is to allow or to enable innovators or researchers or pharmaceutical drug companies to quickly prototype any ideas using our platform. we have end-to-end component or layers in this infrastructure. So we'd like to open this to accelerators, program incubators, or universities, or other startups to take advantage of this, to prototype their new sensors for if mental health applications have some type of sensors. Dr. TRINH, you're welcome to use this platform.
Okay. So
with that,
the door's open, Dr. TRINH. You come up with some ideas, and you could be the leader in this thing here. Let me throw out one other one. I'm going to get real sci-fi here. Maybe this is way off, and maybe we've crossed a boundary again that we don't want to go to. But I know for a fact, we all know that Elon Musk is working on implantable things into your brain, a brain interface. Why touch something, type something, if you can just think it and interface with the computer? That's a really wild idea. So are we ever going to move from the idea of wearables to embeddables? Do I just embed this device like I embed a heart monitor in my chest?
I don't think you're going to have to be that intrusive.
Okay.
I think the technology is going to be able to pick up and zero in on various wavelengths throughout the brain without having to put an implant into the brain.
Wow. Okay. Because that's the whole, next step. At birth, are you implanted with a device, and then it's the chip, and then somehow it feeds information to somebody. That's the Big Brother fear scenario. Everybody's got to, don't get your vaccine, Dr. TRINH, because they're really sticking in a chip there. That's why they're vaccine. It's not the vaccine. They're just putting a chip in your body here, and they're talking to you here. Is anything fear of that, Dr. TRINH? Do patients come up with these wild ideas and worry or wonder about that, or would that be a great idea just to have it unplugged into the net?
Well, with conspiracy theories, there's always a little bit of truth somewhere in it, but most of it is, of course, it rattles everyone else. But who knows? Maybe at some point I may have a little microchip in my hand where I wave. Have you been to Whole Foods? You wave your hand over the payment system, and that's your payment there, and somehow that works. Have you guys been to Whole Foods lately?
I have not. No, I did not see that.
Not with that feature.
And then look again at what Apple they think this is their next breakthrough product. They had the iPod, and then the iPad, and then the iPhone, and then the iWatch, and now they've got their version of a virtual reality headset. I forgot what they call it, something, I'm sure. And it's more than just a virtual space to go play a game. It's a place to, it's an augmented reality where you can display, when you have this on, you can display your spreadsheets, you can display your videos, you can display all sorts of stuff in the real world around you. So you still you're still walking around your space. People can actually see your eyes through this. So when they look back, it's not just a reflective glass. They can see your eyes so they can see your reactions and stuff. But as you look out, you're on this glass between you and the real world. All this stuff can be displayed, and it's just by the blink of an eye or looking or whatever. You don't even have to move your hands. It's not cheap. Have you seen this thing? It's like $3 or $4 grand that they just came out with here.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Augmented reality is present, especially in the surgical suite. It's a significant tool for surgical planning, especially in neurological, complex neurosurgeries, and cardiology. And it literally is an augmented reality of the diagnosis of whatever organ they're looking at and the actual operative plan prior to going in and doing the surgery.
So you're still looking at the patient in real time, real world, but there's something you're also seeing.
There's an overlay.
Overlay in the middle of floating in space is this overlay here. What do you think of that, Huang? Is it just about me sending data to the doctor, or can the doctor communicate back to me through these devices? Or even more, can the patient, in a world where we're all, our own advocates now, we're involved in our own patient decisions, would patients want to monitor this in real time, a little augmented reality overlay that they can put on and see all their vitals and data or something here? What do you think of all that? I'm giving you wild ideas here.
It has to be affordability and also ease of use. All that is too futuristic, and I haven't had the chance of, being a small company, self-funded company, all that is too futuristic.
Too futuristic for you. Okay.
Interestingly enough, though, you're touching on a real key point in terms of patient engagement.
Right.
And what we've seen in digital health is when you deliver the patients a visualized, maybe a graphical representation of how their healthcare decisions and lifestyle decisions are affecting their vital signs and their health predictors, they get very engaged in the process.
Yeah. Because isn't that part of the problem, Dr. Trim? We've all talked about it and alluded to it. You give them a plan, they go home, they throw the plan away, they stick it in the drawer. I won't take the pill, I won't do the exercise, I won't change my diet, I won't. And we think there's a resistance to that. Maybe this is the accountability factor you're always talking about. Oh, yeah, not only am I see that I'm telling others I'm not doing this, I remind myself I'm really not doing this. When I see the data in front of me here displayed right, maybe it's a motivator. What do you think, Dr. Trin?
It is an accountability factor, and it's a support factor as well.
Right.
It's a way to support our patients, and it allows more touch points than the typical every 3 to 6 months visit the office. More touch points, the better.
I'm going to give you, I hope this doesn't gross people out, but my late father he died 10 years ago. This is way before any of this stuff came along here. He would have embraced this because he was a kind of a businessman, a analytical thinker, a logical person. He wanted to monitor his own health to the point where his doctor once used to ask him what his bowel movements were like. He started charting them. He had some classification, big, small, brown, dark, color, size, a consistency. I don't know if this was just a game he played and kept him busy in life, but he would love to show me his daily charts of bowel movements. I'm like, Dad, honest to God.
Very Ayurvedic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And I mean, he just believed that was the proof positive of what, whether his gut health was good or bad or whatever. And I thought, would we ever get into that? But that made him feel involved in he monitored that. He wasn't just a passive participant anymore. He was actively tracking stuff here. What do you think, Wong? Do you have a chart ready from monitoring my bowel movements?
My chart is even more comprehensive. You didn't mention about the smell.
Smell, yes. All these subjective smell things. Yeah, the size, color, smell, everything, consistency. He had it all down. I don't know if he had smell on the list, but I marveled. That was 10 years ago. So there's a guy that would have embraced more data is better data. The more you know, the better you can do
exactly,
things.
Yes. And like Dr. Trin mentioned earlier, accountability. And also incentivization. If I have my way, I'd like to use all the data I collected while the patients are at home, from medication compliance to exercise or to sleep pattern, and share that with medical insurance companies so that they can pinpoint which patient is more at risk than the others. Yeah. And thereby they can lower or increase their insurance premiums.
What do you think? That's a wild idea. And I've been reading about how, I don't know if they do this yet, but some insurance companies are starting to say they were going to put there's already a computer in your car, and it can easily be adapted, lots of little computer chips. It can adapt and tell you what your speed is. And you can see if you're willing to send them this data, you can show, yeah, I got a lead foot and I'm speeding all the time, or no, I'm always at or under the speed limit, and therefore I should get a good driver discount. I'm really a good driver. I can prove it to you. Yeah. Should that be the same thing for insurance companies? Hey, I am eating right. I am taking my pill. I am taking so many steps. Give me a little break here.
Yeah, it should be. It's all about, up to now, there's no simple way of collecting such data while the patients are at home. So Amazon Sidewalk is, I think, one step in the right direction. And if you recall, 6 or 7 years ago, Amazon acquired a company called PillPack for $1 billion.
I didn't know that.
To me, that's a low-tech way of monitoring medication compliance. Basically, they deliver a 30-day supply of certain medication in a plastic package.
Right.
There are vials, the 30-day supply, and each time the patient just pop out. Each day they pop out that medication. That helps the patient monitor whether they take medication regularly, and by the end of the 30 days, if they see all those 30 vials popped out, that means they have used it. So that's a very low-tech way. It does not feedback that information to the caregivers or to the doctors. Whereas what my smart pill counter and weight scale, it can pinpoint exactly how many pills you have taken and at what time. Okay,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's much more than what Pill Pack can offer. And already 6 or 7 years ago, they acquired that company for $1 billion.
Well, yeah. It's clear that the next acquisition is going to be Nous. Give it a year or two, and that'll be another $1 billion in your pocket here.
Especially if, since our platform here uses the new Amazon Sidewalk.
I know we've given them enough ads. You think they'd reimburse us for this? You think they'd give us a little support in what we're doing here? Dr. TRINH, Terry brought up the other interesting idea. You're the researcher. You've got Irvine Clinical Trials and all these things you're doing. You've got the Healthy Brain Clinic and all these things. What about this monitoring for clinical trials? Wouldn't this be a godsend? Wouldn't you get a hell of a lot more data than them just driving to your center all the time here?
Yeah.
And also along that line, maybe Paul, you could put up the slide that very a great slide to show the services between our partnership between NewsLogic and Device Lab.
Okay. Well,
and Terry can share a lot of interesting services to allow researchers or startup companies out there to very quickly prototype your ideas.
All right. Well, before we do that, let's have Dr. TRINH answer that question. Is this a godsend? Is for clinical research for drug companies and stuff? Because right now you have to pay for them to drive to your clinic. You give them mileage, maybe you give them a stipend or something, but they got to come to you to collect the data. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think you're talking about decentralized type research where data is collected remotely without subjects or participants driving to the office. Yeah, I think in the world of research, they're dipping their toes in that area to evaluate how that would be. But yes, medication compliance or compliance in taking the IP investigational product is important, and it's part of the research protocol, but not necessarily to the level of Huang Yu's products. At this point, but yes, it's being done, but it's being done with today's technology rather than what Huang Yu has.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right. Well, at Huang's request, that gave me enough time to find it and pop it up on the screen. You guys can't see it, so I'll read it for you. The audience can see it, but for Terry, I'll let him respond to this. This looks like it's from some kind of pitch deck or something here, or a PowerPoint presentation.
Is it the accelerator stack?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it says,
including the advisory board thing at the top also, Terry.
So I'm just going to, you can react to some of these. Device Lab, accelerator stack, deliverables. This is stuff you can deliver. And I guess this is your proposition to companies like NewsLogic here. Objective one, get you funded faster. How does your Device Lab partnership get people funded faster? You get a proof of concept or something here?
Yeah, actually, NewsLogic is right at the center of that stack. All of those technologies are the infrastructure that startups typically would have to cobble together themselves, either pulling things off the shelf, trying to create their own APIs.
Right.
Very cumbersome, it's slow, it adds time, and it doesn't really add any value from the investor's perspective.
And those APIs are what we always read about, this application programming interface. It's a way you tap into different things, right? It's this.
Yep, it allows your device to talk to the cloud and the cloud to talk to your device.
Right.
It's the international translator from Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
For the nerds out there.
That is the best description of it. I've always been searching for a way. How do you describe these APIs that allow you to interface with all these other programs and stuff? Yeah, it's the international translator from Star Trek.
That's it. But the security, the compliance, all of that is just really complicated, and it's dilutive to the startups' efforts of focusing on their core strategic technology.
It takes time and money away from what they're really trying to do here.
Exactly. And it's just
also what they are good at. Also, that allows them to focus on what their core competencies.
Very good point. Mm-hmm. Very good point. It's especially when you're looking at, building a virtual startup where you're not investing in brick and mortar. You're really leveraging your core competencies, and where the developmental needs fall outside of those core competencies, you're outsourcing.
So how do you come into these companies? I'm at the Beal Applied Innovation Center for UCI. Lots of medical devices in this building being experimented with and developed and everything here. And I wonder what your role is. You say strategic advisor. Do you just get paid a fee to come in and do this?
This is part and parcel to the entire early development process that we're offering to startup companies. And basically what this is linking together all the integral parts that you need to quickly and efficiently demonstrate proof of concept in a real world setting to your prospective investors. And what the advisory services is, it's a translational service. It's taking the clinical case and turning that into a clear, concise business case for your prospective investors. That's something I'm expert in. I've been doing that for 25 years. I've done over 60 strategic business plans, raised over $100 billion, blah, 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 all that. But what it is, it's effective. It's what the investors are looking for. And when done properly, it's your own internal due diligence. So we believe that between being able to help you fully manifest your device in an alpha prototype that is linked in to your operational infrastructure and your algorithm that you can now demonstrate to your prospective investors in the terms that they understand, is going to help accelerate your ability to secure funding.
Yeah, you get you funded faster, get your prototype up and going here, which means you get to market. And you talk about maximizing value at exit. Is that just because you've got all this stuff already developed here?
Speed to market's never been an insignificant thing in the development of medical device, but speed to market was always balanced by accuracy.
Yeah,
because you need to make decisions a few years ahead of the point in time where you're going to get real world feedback.
Right.
So how do you validate those assumptions? So what we're doing is we're helping the first-time entrepreneur, which is typical, helping them de-risk their business model at the same time we're de-risking their device and de-risking their software, the stack of software they're going to need for this to be operational.
Yeah, as technical as that all sounds, I get it. It's about bringing in, as Huang said, not just some technical ability and a plan in place of how you're going to roll this thing out, but getting a prototype, getting to market, and doing it in a way that's safe, secure, and works. What good is this if it's not safe, or what good is it if it doesn't work?
Or if it doesn't get through FDA.
Yeah, right. Oh, right. Yeah, right, exactly. So all that stuff you can walk. And how do you work with these people? Are you just a big paid consultant? Are you get a piece of the pie? What kind of models do you work on?
The accelerator stack is positioned. It's difficult to say what it would cost because we have to look at the core technology. But what we're trying to do there is enable first-time entrepreneurs to leverage early investors, to leverage maybe some early dollars that they're going to collect from friends and family, to lower that threshold where, over the course of the full development, once they are funded, we'd hope that they'd come back to us and work with us in the long term.
So Huang, I'm trying to pull back the curtain here. Is this just a partnership with a company that you recommend and you've used, or do you have some involvement in Device Lab? You got your hands in so many different businesses. I'm wondering if you're in this one too, or if this is just a partner you're recommending here.
No, I've worked with Device Lab for a long time, about 20 years, on some contract projects and also joint projects internally.
And are there lots of device lab-like companies out there, or is this a pretty rare combination you got here, Terry?
It's interesting you asked that. I was on 2 sales calls earlier this week with startup companies that were looking at bringing advanced clinical technologies into the home. Really exciting projects. And one of them was delighted to find the advisory services as part and parcel to this, because they're a surgeon. Yeah. They don't understand this. This is the first time they've gone down this road. So they were thrilled to find that as part of it. The other person I was speaking to, they were thrilled to find the device development piece was integrated through a strategic signed partnership with Nous Logic with the software development. So that is all formally integrated. So it was kind of from both ends of that spectrum that I got positive feedback earlier this week, and we're just rolling this out.
So Huang, in your business model, is Nous Logic just an end delivery company? You're developing this platform with all these different devices, and your goal is to sell it directly to the consumer? Or are you selling this to hospitals, to insurance companies? Or are you the white label provider for other startups that want to have software like Device Lab puts together and the APIs and all this stuff, along with the physical prototypes and the physical devices? What's your plan of attack here? All of that? Any of that?
It's almost all of the above.
Okay.
The end goal, right now, it's to partner with Device Lab to serve their external clients, namely those startup companies that we enable them to focus on their core competencies so that they can get the proof of concept prototype as quickly as possible, and get funding for the next phase, which is FDA or a 510K submission.
Right.
Okay, so that's the partnership. What the partnership is about. But my end goal is to leverage all the technologies like Amazon Sidewalk to allow the elderly to age in place.
You're definitely you're definitely looking for an endorsement or a paid sponsorship or an ad from Amazon Sidewalk. Boy, you're pushing that one hard here. Like that idea.
I'll be reaching out to their investment group later today.
Yeah, right. Just play this video. Yeah.
That's really huge. If you think about Amazon is all about investing in healthcare with that, for example, just one example, that $1 billion pill pack,
right? Low
tech medication. And it's not just me saying, just a week ago, major semiconductor companies like Silicon Lab based in Austin have an article about new applications for Amazon Sidewalk. It lists 3 specific reasons why it is good for smart home health. And one of those is from medication adherence monitoring application. So I'm very, very thrilled to see that's a big company like a major semiconductor chip company, sharing the same vision.
Well, Dr. TRINH, we're coming to the end here. It sounds like very soon Huang's going to be onto something very big. If he's not there already, and I can see another Bentley in the making in his garage soon. Here, he's got that baby blue one he took me to lunch in with. That's already pretty startling. What do you think, Dr. TRINH? Is there another Bentley in his future here?
Yeah, the Bentley's just his Honda.
That's his go-to-market car here. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't drive that one to visit the investors, so.
Yeah, no, right. Right, you show up with the Honda and everything. Exactly. Well, I think this is fascinating stuff. What amazes me is that you all casually talk about, it's here. And I'm like, this is still Star Trek. This is the universal translator. This is the futuristic technology that I can't believe is really here, but it's here. And I think it's already finding its way into our homes, the smart home. Telehealth is not something many of us have never heard of before. It's something maybe we've experienced, even if it's just a call to a nurse once in a while, or a late night call. Rather than go to an emergency, you call somebody up. What is this? What should I do? This whole concept is getting real really fast. What do you think, Juan? Give me a timeline. Give me a future. What's the future look like 5 years from now? Is this just everyday, ordinary stuff? Look into the future. Pull that crystal ball out. How fast is this? Like automated cars, for example. We did a show on automated cars for a long time here. And we had so many people come on and they say, this is way, way, way off in the future. And then we had these car designers say, well, I'm telling you, I'm designing a car 5 years in advance and it has no steering wheel. So you tell me, how fast this is coming.
It's here. Since you mentioned about automated, I'd like to quickly summarize with the automated kiosk that I mentioned last week. Yes, in the waiting room of hospitals. That's in the smart hospital. Gotta have an automated way of instead of having the nurse to take each patient in one by one and measure the blood pressure, weight,
write it down, and then type it in and all this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
This is paperless, seamless automation and error-free because nobody types here. There's no chance of any error via typing. It's like a self auto vital checks, just like at Home Depot or
it's the
Costco.
self checkout at Home Depot.
Exactly.
Check-in. It's a self check-in instead of a self checkout. Well, we got to check out Dr. TRINH. Fascinating as always here. Glad to meet Terry and know that he's got a secret device lab where he's just putting these robots together that are going to conquer the world. He's assembling them. We're all promoting them. And I hope that someday we don't wake up and go, what were we thinking? Oh, my God, the robots are running the world here. Well, maybe they should. They couldn't do any worse than we're doing. What do you think, Dr.
Amazing chat again. And grateful to learn more about Device Lab. I've heard Device Lab quite a bit from Juan over the years, and so very nice to meet you finally, Terry. And thank you, Juan.
Thank you, Doctor.
You should bring them over to. Have you been to the Beal Applied Innovation Center? Do you ever wander through the building?
Yes. How about the four of us on the Bentley for lunch at Eureka like last time?
Oh man, now we're talking. Bring the Bentley, and I'm there.
Dr. TRINH is available. Okay.
Sounds good.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
I like that idea.
Dr. TRINH's the tough one to get here, but you get Dr. TRINH in the Bentley and bring Terry along, and we'll conquer the world here. We'll do something.
For sure. Okay.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Great seeing you.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, there you have it. 4 guys in the future. Right today, the future is now. And it starts with Health Talks each and every week with Dr. TRINH, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beal Applied Innovation Center.